Have you ever been in a relationship and you just had issues with trust? You just had issues with trust and you did not know how you can start trusting somebody, especially when you have trust issues. Now, the thing about trust issues, and what you probably didn't know, is that trust issues actually come from somewhere. Trust issues just don't come out of thin air, or it just doesn't happen all of a sudden. Like, oh, I have trust issues because I don't know why. Like, no, there is a reason why. There is a reason why you have trust issues. A couple of those reasons, maybe past betrayals, a previous partner, cheated on you, dishonesty, which can leave emotional scars in a relationship. Insecurities. Insecurity is the big one, where you may feel insecure about yourself, so thus can trigger some trust issues. If you feel insecure, like having low self-esteem, makes you doubt your worth in a relationship. Another one is poor communication. If you have poor communication in a relationship, it can lead to a lot of misunderstandings. And what the misunderstandings lead to is assumptions and distrust, right? I always have this saying, like, assumptions get people killed, and assumptions can also get relationships killed as well too. So poor communication can be part of that. But one that sticks out really, really for real is unhealed trauma. Unhealed trauma, and you're putting yourself into that relationship and you're not healed with your trauma, like the experiences of abandonment. It can be emotional neglect. All those things can lead to having trust issues. Now, luckily for you, you stumbled upon this video, and I'm going to break down not only what the trust issues can be for you, but also how can you overcome trust issues? How can you really overcome trust issues? I feel as if you are able to break down your own trust issues in a relationship, that can significantly bring about you having a successful relationship. Trust issues is something that we bring into the relationship, and sometimes it can be something that is developed out of the relationship, right? You probably fully trusted somebody until they, broke your trust. You could have, that person that you're dating or you're talking to, or whoever they may be, they may have not done anything to break your trust. But the fact of the matter is you brought in that baggage. So therefore, they are dealt with the hand that you're giving them by trying to consistently gain your trust. Now, one of the ways you can start to work on managing some of those trust issues that you have is, one, open up about your fears. Open up about your fears to your partner in the relationship, because what that does is it allows you first and foremost to get that out of your system. Get that out of your system. It's okay to be in a relationship or be interested in somebody and actually have some fears around what if it's going to work or not. Having some fears about, am I going to get dealt the same hand as I did before? I gave people tries before and they just let me down, or they broke my heart, or whatever it may be. Let your partner know what your fears are, right? And I think what ultimately happens when you allow you to open up about your fears is it gives your partner the opportunity to really understand where you're coming from, to reassure you when those fears come up, because they may not be doing anything to trigger those fears, but you may still have in the back of your head, I should say, that they're going to somehow, some way, devastate you. It's okay to feel that fear, but you want to break through that fear and that insecurity, because if you have fears in your relationship, you're not going to trust that the relationship is going to be successful, thus leading you into trusting that actual relationship and the person that you're dating. Now, the other part of this, when we talk about trust issues, is practicing active listening. Practicing actively listening. I think we have active listening screwed up a little bit Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm sitting down, I'm taking the time to hear you, I'm taking the time to, you know, talk about it or whatever it may be. But active listening, what it really is hearing and listening is two different things. I'm gonna break that down first, because hearing is literally, just as you're watching this video, the sound waves hitting your eardrum so that it makes a noise that is familiar, which is a language or a sound or whatever it is. That's hearing. So you can hear a plane take off, you can hear a car crash, you can hear somebody talk. But when you're listening, that's when you process what is being heard. You feel what I'm saying? So when you're listening, that's when you're able to process what you're hearing. So you're not just hearing and just the sound waves just hitting your ear, you're processing. So in order for you to build trust, it requires the mutual understanding. And when your partner speaks to you, you listen without interrupting nor jumping to conclusions, right? What we talked about earlier. Jumping to conclusions can lead to, is actually jumping into conclusions, not leading to anything more so, but it's stemmed in making an assumption, right? Because when you jump to conclusions, you feel like you have all the evidence you need already in order to make an informed decision, when in fact, when you jump to conclusions, you're not fully aware of the whole situation and what's going on. Now, another way to overcome some of these trust issues is to set clear boundaries, right? You guys hear me say this a lot, and I'm a firm believer in it. Boundaries to the T. Discuss what your boundaries are, what's acceptable for you versus what's not acceptable for you. Give yourself the time and the space for you to be clear on what is it that you really want, right? Sometimes with the trust issues, what happens is you weren't really clear on your boundaries and what you really wanted. And you were probably trying to find a way in which this person may change in a sense, but you not having boundaries, you're just dating this person just to date them. You don't really have no clear intentions, right? But the issue happens when you don't set boundaries and you're just kind of dating whoever and don't really have any rules. Once you start narrowing down on certain things, you're like, you know what, I actually may like this person. I actually may want to get serious. Then you start to have boundaries that's enforced. And it's kind of like, well, we weren't built upon this already. Like, we've already been dating. We've already been talking. So where did these boundaries come from? Right. So in the future of that, if you have somebody and you're trying to set boundaries and then, they cross your boundaries, you may not really trust them. But if you set boundaries from the get-go and they cross them, then you have a better chance and opportunity to actually have a conversation about it, or actually like, hey, this is probably not something that I want to do, right? So it reduces the misunderstanding and it gives you more clarity in the relationship. So thus, you have a better foundation of trust, because clarity can help build trust in a relationship. All right. So the other part of this is working on self-healing. So trust issues also reflect inner wounds, unresolved trauma, infidelity, hurt, abandonment issues, which leads to certain attachment styles, all those different things. So I would always say, consider going to some form of therapy, journaling, mindfulness practices, to work through those traumas and those insecurities. Because I'll say this much, if you have abandonment issues and you had issues with attachment and you don't really know what your attachment style is, and why are you anxious attachment, or why are you avoiding attachment, or why are you even secure attachment? If you don't heal those inner wounds, it's going to show up in the relationship, and it's going to show up in a way in which you're probably not going to really, you're not going to really grasp the full benefits of the relationship, because you're so blocked. You have abandonment issues. So if you're trying to get up to here, like, hey, I'm trying to get to this level of my relationship, and something's holding you back, like, I need to work through, like, I don't know what it is. It's like, I have abandonment issues. If you don't work on that, you can't elevate in your relationship. Now, the next thing is being consistent. So consistency builds trust, right? So if something happens over and over again, you can trust that that thing or whatever it may be, or that person is going to do the same thing over and over again, right? You may sit in the chair, right? And that chair, you probably sat in it 100 times, and you never really check to see if that chair is actually stable or whatever it may be. You just always sit in the chair. Now, with that being said, since you've been sitting in that chair over 100 times, you trust that that chair is going to hold you up, right? Just like in a relationship, when you're dealing with somebody, is if they've been doing the same thing over and over again, you have to trust and see. You have to trust that they are going to be that same person over and over again, right? So when it comes to being honest in a relationship, if somebody is consistently honest and they're consistent with being honest, no matter if they, if you like the truth or you don't like the truth, if they're being consistent with being honest, then that can help build trust in a relationship. Again, you may not like the truth, but you can't doubt that that person is going to not do the same thing they've always done, especially if they're trying to be honest. Now, the last thing I'll say is, this one's going to be like kind of hard. If you do this, I'm going to say this last thing. If you do this, make sure it is a conscious decision that you make, right? It can be helpful. I don't want you to do it just because I'm saying to do it. I want you to do it because you have a clear conscience and, hey, I want to make this work. The last thing is forgive and move forward, right? Forgive and move forward. So if you have trust issues and somebody has broken your trust and you made the decision to try to make it work, you have to forgive and move forward. Now, forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Forgiving doesn't mean, hey, I'm gonna forget what you did and it's all good, right? But what it means is letting go of resentment. Letting go of the past, letting go of whatever it was that brought you to the space so that you can move forward, right? That's very hard because, again, we're human beings and it's hard to be like, okay, I'm gonna drop this resentment I have. I'm not gonna be mad anymore. I'm not gonna do X, Y, and Z. But you have to learn how to forgive and move forward, especially if you made the conscious decision to be in the relationship. If you made the conscious decision to be in a relationship, even if, I'll use for example, somebody cheated on you, right? It is your choice whether if you're going to stay with that person or not. It is your choice whether or not you can give that person a second chance. Maybe some of y'all might be on the third or fourth chance. I don't know. That's y'all business. But you have to learn how to forgive and move forward. If you don't know how to forgive and move forward, then you're going to have trust issues specifically in that relationship. Even if you feel like you can't be with this person no longer, right? So say, for example, the person cheated on you, it is still good practice to forgive and move forward because you don't want to bring that baggage into another relationship, right? So you have to either way forgive and move forward if you want to start to develop healthier trust in your relationship. Now, I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Make sure y'all do all the great things, like, share, subscribe. I want to hear from y'all in the comments. What do you guys think about trust issues in a relationship? And if some of these things that I mentioned, or maybe some things you guys maybe heard in the past, or some things that came to mind while y'all was watching this video, what are some things you guys feel like is helpful when we talk about having trust issues and how to overcome trust issues? I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Y'all take care. Peace.